Today, I'm going through every NFL team and giving their odds of making the playoffs. So we have our six tiers right here at the top, 100%, which means, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs no matter what. Most likely, teams that should have no problem making the playoffs, 50-50, where they could get in, they could not get in. It's really up in the air. Could sneak in teams that you're probably not expecting to make the playoffs, but you never know, they can. No being teams that don't really have a chance, and then no way being the teams that definitely do not have a chance. So let's start this off with the New Orleans Saints. They're going to go straight into no way. They have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. They're an aging team. Their quarterback room is probably the worst in the league. Their star receiver is hurt every season, Chris Olave. I'm praying that he can have a fully healthy season, but these concussions are just way too consistent for him to be on the field all the time. And their defense, they lost Tyrann Mathieu in the offseason. There's just no way. There's just no way they can make the playoffs, even in a weaker NFC South division. The Miami Dolphins, I'm honestly going to say no. I don't see a world where the Dolphins do make the playoffs this season. Watching the preseason game of Dolphins Bears, Mike McDaniel's play calling was horrendous. I was rooting for the Bears, so I didn't mind it, but looking at it at an objective point of view, his play calling was really bad. And that alone, if you don't have good play calling, you're not going to be able to be a successful offensive team. And the Dolphins are an offensive team. They rely on their offense to win games. And so if the play calling on offense is rough, then the team is going to be in rough shape. So I'm going to say no for the Dolphins. Ravens 100%. If they miss the playoffs, that would be catastrophic. I don't know how they can miss, really. If I simulated a Madden franchise 100 times, I think they would make it 100 out of 100 times. Bengals, I'm going to say 50-50 for them. It really just depends on the defense. If the offense goes out there, puts up over 30 points a game, the defense can hold teams to like 25-ish points per game, then that would be a success. And I think the Bengals could get into the playoffs that way. But if the defense is as bad as we think it is, it's hard to say that they're a lock to make the playoffs. So I'm going to say 50-50 for them. Denver, honestly, Denver most likely to get in. It's not 100% for Denver because they're in a tough division, in a tough conference, but they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Bo Nix showed a lot of promise last year. They upgraded their running back room. They upgraded their receiving core. And this Broncos team on paper is definitely better than the team last year. So I think they have a really strong chance to get in. The Giants, I'm not going to say no way because I think there's a chance, maybe like if I simulated 100 times, they would make it 2 or 3 because they do have some pieces like Malik Neighbors. You have an insane D line, a couple of promising secondary players, a couple of good offensive linemen, but the team is just not good enough to make the playoffs right now. They're in a really tough NFC East, which that alone is going to give you probably 5-6 losses to your record already. And so I'm going to say no for the Giants. The Vikings, honestly, it's 50-50 for Minnesota. I can't say most likely because the 50-50 is really about J.J. McCarthy. If he goes out there and plays like even an average quarterback, this team I think will get in because their defense, their receivers, their running backs, their whole team, besides the QB position, is good enough to just get in if J.J. McCarthy is not bad. But if J.J. is really bad, which I don't think he will be, but let's just say he is for the sake of it, then I think the Vikings would miss the playoffs. Because you can't make the playoffs with a bad quarterback performance. The teams with the worst QBs in the league statistically do not make the playoffs. And so I'm going to say 50-50 for the Vikings. The Rams are in a tier where I want to put them in 100%. I have them as a dark horse Super Bowl team, but you never know if the 49ers, Seahawks, or Cardinals can take that NFC West. They're all teams that definitely at least have a chance to do so. Take it away from the Rams. And I think the NFC, just as a conference, is pretty stacked this year with teams that can get 10, 11 wins and take away wild card berths. So if the Rams somehow lose the division, they might not get in, but most likely, I think they'll win this division. Tampa Bay, same thing. Most likely, they will win the NFC South. There's a chance the Falcons take it from them, and even if they did, I think Tampa would still get a wild card berth. I think this Tampa team is really good on paper. One of the best NFL teams in my eyes. Baker's been playing great the past few years. You added Emeka Egbuka in the draft. Bucky Irving, great running back. So a lot of promise for this Tampa Bay Bucks team. The Lions, I'm honestly going to give the Lions 100%. It's just to make the playoffs, by the way, not to win the Super Bowl. And in terms of making the playoffs, the Lions are still going to make it no matter what. Even if they regress a good bit after last season, Jared Goff, I think, will still be good enough to get this team into the playoffs. They still have one of the deepest rosters in the league. In my eyes, their defense got better from last year. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, probably the best running back duo in the league. So I'm going to say 100% for them. Moving on to the Bears. This is going to be the first could sneak in team. I do like Caleb. I do like Ben Johnson. I am a Bears fan. Their defense is super underrated. Their secondary is one of the best in the league. It's just going to be tough because you're in a stacked NFC North. Like I said, with the Rams and the Bucks, a stacked NFC conference. And so most likely it's going to be a growing year for this Bears team. And so I don't have them making it this season, but there's a chance they could. You know, it's not impossible. 49ers, 50-50. We really don't know how they're going to look this season. If they look like the team from 2 years ago, then they obviously would, but I just don't know if they're going to be that. It's hard to say with them. It really is 50-50. Eagles are 100%. No need to explain. Super Bowl champions. Even if they lose a few more games this year, still have probably the deepest team in the NFL, and they just won the Super Bowl. So I'm going to say 100%. The Raiders, I'm going to put them in could sneak in. I don't think it's a definite no. I do like Geno. You have Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, two great blue chip prospects, and Max Crosby on defense, another top guy at his position. So the Raiders hypothetically have three top guys at their position on this team, but the rest of the team is not great. Your receiving core is one of the weaker cores in the league. Your O-line is questionable, and your secondary is not that great. So I'm going to say could sneak in, but I doubt they will. In Green Bay, I think they have a better chance than the Bears, but I'm still going to say could sneak in. I don't think it's 50-50 with them. I think it's probably like 40-60 favoring not making the playoffs. I just don't know about this receiving core. They have so many wide receiver 2s, but I don't think they have a good wide receiver 1, let alone the fact that the defense has taken some blows to the secondary. Jordan Love has some question marks about his game. And so I'm going to say could sneak in, but it's a little bit looser for could sneak in, more like a 50-50, but I just don't think their odds are actual 50-50. Commanders, most likely, it's not the Eagles or the Ravens 100%, because the defense gives me some concerns. But Jaden Daniels, if they re-sign Terry McLaurin, you have Deebo Samuel now, you have Zach Ertz at the tight end, good O-line that got upgraded with guys like Laramie Tunsil. It's hard to say that they would miss, so I'm going to say most likely. Cardinals could sneak in. They're a team that always has a chance. They're always fighting at the end of the year to get one of those final spots. They just don't get it. They could do it this year if Kyler keeps it together for a full season, but I'm going to say less than 50-50 right now. Steelers are a 50-50. They're a team that goes 9-8 to 10-7 almost every single season, and usually they do get into the playoffs. And so I think you upgraded your quarterback, you upgraded your tight end room, upgraded your cornerback room, and you have a lot of upgrades now. And so I do think they have a decent chance to get in. The AFC, did upgrade a bit. You have teams like the Patriots who got better, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. There's teams that were not good last year that got better, so there's a chance they could slip. But I'm going to say 50-50. Bills are 100%. I think they're 100% to win their division, too. Like, in my eyes, there's no way the Bills will not win the AFC East, and so it's going to be 100%. Falcons, I have at 50-50. I think they have a really strong chance to get a wild card berth. I just don't think they're going to win the division. And if they don't win the division, it's really just up to, win percentage and points per game, stuff like that. Because I think a lot of these teams are going to be tied at 10-7, 11-6, and that's going to determine some of the final spots. The Seahawks, they could sneak in too. It just depends on how good Sam Darnold plays. I don't expect him to be the Minnesota Vikings self, but if he can be like 70% of that, because he was like an MVP level quarterback last year, if he can be 70% of that, then there's a chance the Seahawks team could get in. I just don't think overall as a unit they're good enough. They're not bad. It's just they're not going to be a team that, is a top 7 team in the NFC. So I'm going to say could sneak in, but I doubt it. The Patriots could sneak in. This is a very sneaky team. I do like Drake May, but some people are overrating him just a little bit right now. You upgraded on defense, you upgraded on the O-line, you upgraded on the receiver core, running back room. This team is just overall way better than what they were a year or 2 years ago. So you like to see the improvement from New England. I just think they're a year away from really trying to compete for a playoff spot right now. But I think they could sneak in with the team as is. Browns, no way. I could move them from no way to no if Shador is starting. I think he's the most talented quarterback in that room. And it's going to be the biggest question throughout the entire season. Who is going to be that starter? Just anyone but Kenny Pickett. No disrespect to him, but that will not work out. Maybe Joe Flacco if he wants stability. Dylan Gabriel, your guy you took 2 rounds before Shador. It just depends what they do. And it also depends how the defense plays. If they can bounce back a little bit more from last year, that would be a good thing for Cleveland. The Texans will most likely make the playoffs. I think there's a very strong chance they win the weak AFC South. And if they don't, then it really is just up to chance. But this team is almost a lock to go 10-7, 11-6, lock up a playoff spot. You have a top 10 QB in CJ Stroud. You have a top 10 receiver in Nico Collins. You have a top 3 defense. I just think there's no way that, they're not going to be likely to make the playoffs. Kansas City, 100%. Even if they, for some reason, don't win the division, like I think Denver has a chance to, maybe LA has a chance to, but even if they don't win the division, I still think that they for sure at least get into the playoffs. So 100% for Kansas City. The Cowboys, I'm going to say 50-50. I think they have a better chance to make the playoffs than the Bears, the Packers, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, all these other NFC wildcard type teams. Because I like the Cowboys upside more. I think in terms of best possible team you can be, I think the Cowboys have a higher upside than all of the teams and could sneak in. And so I do think they can get to that 12 win range and get a wild card spot locked up. I just don't know if they will, especially with the Micah Parsons contract going on. The Chargers, I'm going to say 50-50 for them. I don't know how I feel about the Chargers. They did a lot to their roster this season. You lost Rashawn Slater for the year with a I think he tore his ACL. If he tore another bone instead, or another muscle, forgive me. But I think he tore his ACL. Anyway, you lose your lineman for the year. Your starting tackle. And Najee Harris, we don't know what's going on with him. He has like a poked eye from a firework. So that's going to be a bit interesting how that plays out. But I just don't think this team is going to be good enough to, lock up a playoff spot like they were last year. They're in the 50-50 because they can. I just don't know if they will be. Like, I think Denver's better. I think the Texans are better. you could argue the Bengals or the Steelers might be better. And so it's just going to be tough for LA to make it this year. The Jets, I'm going to say no. It's not no way because they definitely have at least somewhat, it's not a 0, it's like a 3 or a 4% chance. Justin Fields could have a breakout season. You never know. It's just I would not say it's likely. I would say no. I don't think they can sneak in. The Panthers, again, I'm going to say could sneak in. Bryce Young looks a lot better now heading into year 3 and at the end of year 2. And so that's encouraging. You get Ted McMillan, the stud wide receiver 1 that Bryce needed. The defense is going to be the biggest question mark, though. If that defense can't stop a nosebleed like we think Cincinnati's defense is going to be like, then this team will not make the playoffs. But I think there's a chance they could sneak in. The Titans, no way. There is no way the Titans make the playoffs. For some reason, in at least their first season, the first overall pick does worse than his other draftees, if that makes any sense. Like, Bryce Young did worse than CJ Stroud 2 years ago. Caleb did worse than Jaden Daniels last year. And so for some reason, the number 1 overall pick has just been struggling. And so I think Cam Ward, with not a great team around him, is going to have a bit of a rough rookie year. I don't have them making the playoffs in any chance. And the final 2 teams, the Colts and Jaguars, I'm going to place them both in now. The Colts is going to be a no. We know they can compete. We know they can win games with a rough QB competition. It's just that QB room is so bad. You had Joe Flacco, who was some stability last year, but now you have Daniel Jones, who, I think can ball out if he wants to, but I just don't think he ever will. And then finally, the Jaguars could sneak in. Depends how Trevor Lawrence plays. We like to talk about Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas, all these other guys. It really just depends on how Trevor Lawrence plays. If he plays like the Clemson version of himself, or even like the 2022 version of himself that made the playoffs, then this team can make it because they're better than any team Lawrence has had before. But if he's just playing like crap, then even if Travis Hunter plays great and Brian Thomas plays great, they won't make the playoffs. So, this is my tier list. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm sorry that this video is not going to be super highly edited, if at all, because I am kind of rushing to make this before football practice. So, that's that. But if you guys enjoyed, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.